Based in Silver City, New Mexico, Victoria Chick is a contemporary figurative artist and early 19th, 20th century print collector. And she's been a longtime expert contributor on Big Blend Radio and in Big Blend Radio and TV magazine, as well as our Parks and Travel magazine for a number of years. And she is back on our Big Blend Radio show today to share some of the general ideas and a plan for the Silver City, New Mexico Art Museum. And I encourage you to go to her website, victoriachick.com. You can also go to bigblendmagazines.com and link through, and you'll find her articles where she's listed as an expert on both websites. So welcome back, Victoria. How are you?
Thank you, Lisa. I'm doing well today.
Hey, good. Today we're recording this out in Florence, Colorado, beautiful community. And it's starting to become a little bit of an art community. Apparently, a lot of artists are moving up from Santa Fe to this area, and the scenery and the landscapes kind of merge into the two places. They kind of share that same the scenery. It's really pretty out here. But it's interesting because you're in Silver City, New Mexico. Nancy and I just came back from Santa Fe and went to a number of museums. There's the International Folk Art Museum. The Capitol building has like an incredible collection of art. And it's interesting what you're starting in Silver City because you have, Nancy, since we've been covering Silver City for the last at least 10 plus 12 years now, Silver City has been known as an art community. So, but it doesn't have a fine art museum. And so what you're trying to do is an actual fine art museum, kind of like going towards more what Santa Fe is doing, right?
That's right. Silver City has this reputation, as you mentioned, for being an art destination, and it really is. Mm-hmm. We are off the beaten path because we're sort of on a highway that ends just north of us at the cliff dwellings. So you have to have a reason to come to Silver City, and Silver City offers many reasons. Lots of them art related. We have all kinds of events. We have wonderful galleries. We've got a museum that's associated with the university that shows all the wonderful historic pottery that's done over the last 1,000 years here in New Mexico. And so people do come here for arts events, but we would like to have an art museum to give people a reason to come here every single day. And that's our goal.
Does a lot of people come because I know you have the Red Dot Art Sale and the studio tours and like the Clay Festival, so it's kind of event driven to get people in, right?
We are event driven. Another one is the Southwest Print Fiesta, which is only 2 years old now, but thousands of people come to that. So we do get a lot of visitors, and I think any community who is art oriented has a big draw for visitors. Mm-hmm. In addition to helping the people in their own community.
Mm-hmm. I think the museums, like when we went to the ones in Santa Fe, I was thinking about what you're doing in Silver City and the importance of it. And it is like people are there on a daily basis. And when you go in, you've got these, the exhibits are incredible. The International Folk Art Museum blew my mind, because it's a little bit different than what you're doing, but it was well curated. And in fact, you have to have a guidebook to understand and read about each exhibit because there's so much in this space. But it's just kind of puts it in this level of, when you go to a place like Santa Fe, you're going to go see a number of museums. They have Museum Hill, with all these different kinds. So you have Native American Contemporary Art Museum, you have Fine Art Museums, it's all these different types. So they've almost they have the events and everything, but it seems that they've really built in that no matter what happens with the weather, you have a museum you can go to, and a number of them. Do you see getting this one started, and then from there it's kind of like add more and more museums. You've the Mimbres Arts one, and the Silver City Historical Museum, but you see it becoming something even bigger on that level with more than one museum for art.
Santa Fe is really interesting historically from an art standpoint, because people started coming to Santa Fe not because of the art. Artists just sort of drifted that way because they sort of heard it was very scenic, and they heard about the Indians. And the odd thing to me was that most of the people that wound up coming to Santa Fe as artists coming to Santa Fe actually heard about Santa Fe when they were at a school in Paris in 1870s, 1880s.
Wow.
So and of course at that time it was considered a very romantic place to go, romantic in the sense that it was exotic and unusual. And so they went there. Some of them, the earliest ones, went by stagecoach, and the train came through. It didn't actually go through Santa Fe. They stopped it at Lamy, which is maybe outside of Santa Fe about 20 miles. So that's where the train station still is. And people that live there, the artists that live there, had a hard time selling their work because, I mean, Santa Fe was a wide spot in the road at the time, and there just weren't people that were buying art. So they would work there, they would get their ideas there, but then they would ship it back to the East Coast or even to Europe. And people would, they wanted pictures of Indians, and they thought, and the artists were very good. The artists had a really great relationship for the most part with the Indians, because the Indians had a great art tradition too, and they respected the I'll call them the Anglo artists, and the Anglo artists really respected the Indian art that was being done at the time. So it took a long time for Santa Fe to be recognized around the world as an art mecca. And I'd like to think Silver City is in the same position right now. I mean, the first art gallery in was Taos in Taos, was started in just before 1950. Because before then there weren't the numbers of people that would come to buy art. So as it got to be more acknowledged as an art center, it grew and it grew and it grew, and then people started museums. And I think, if you look at it historically, museums are almost always, all the great museums in the United States at least, almost all of them have been started by an individual.
Oh, wow.
Or just a very small group of people, or a family who just had the idea that, whatever they had needed to be preserved, and that it would benefit their community. And really how most of them started. Some of them have gotten really huge since then, and are visited by people from all over the world.
Wow.
I think, Silver City being such an art place already, that the artists would be very supportive of this, because once you have an art museum, I think the local artists will really benefit from it.
Well, they do, from a standpoint of being inspired, and what most museums don't exhibit currently living artists, I should say.
Yeah, but there's a history there. There's more than one thing.
Every museum has its own focus, and there's contemporary art museums. There's museums that most museums dabble in historical art, but yes, the inspiration is always there for the current artists, and there's something to aspire to kids. I think when they go to art museums and they see that art is really respected, and they are maybe inspired to put more effort into it as a result of that, more time and effort.
I think visitors to a town, when they know there's an art museum as well as art events, are more likely to visit the towns that have both art events, artists, local artists, art galleries, and a museum.
Yes.
I think it's a major draw, tourism-wise.
If you can hit all three, I think that is really attractive to people, because especially with our town of Silver City, people have to spend some time driving here. If we are out in the mountains, and it's a pretty drive, but if they're coming from another state, which a lot of people do come from Arizona and Texas, and even some from Colorado, to come down here, and it is much more exciting for them and a bigger reason for them to come if there are more opportunities to see really good art in one area.
Yeah, I think so. It adds value to the town. And I think there's something important about art not being, there are some issues. Some museums have too much stuff and you never get to see it.
Okay.
Right? No, there's some issues with that. And so I think the more museums you have, the more they can share that load together and have traveling exhibits as well. But you're giving art a place to continue to live on. An artist creates a painting or a sculpture, it shouldn't only be there for the life of the artist. It should continue on, and that's what I picked up from with you. Over it's been a couple years. You've been talking about this, maybe longer. That is one of those main goals of this, is to keep the art of the artists that you've collected and other people have collected alive over the years.
Well, that's true. I got into collecting accidentally when I went. Like so many things I do.
It was an accident.
I was out shopping with my mom, and this is like the early 1970s, and we were in an antique store, and I saw this print by Birger Sanzane, who I was familiar with because I'd gone to Bethany College in Lindsborg, Kansas, and there's a museum with just his work in it. And so I really liked his work, but here it was in this it was I say antique place. It was like a flea market almost, and it was framed badly. It had an acid mat out, and I thought, I've got to rescue this. And so I bought it, and it cost in today's market it cost almost nothing, but back then, when I was in graduate school, it cost me the same amount cost me to go to a semester of college.
Wow.
And that was, at that time, that was a real stretch for me. But it did start me on collecting. And since then, I've collected images, and sometimes not knowing who the artist was, or really not caring, because I just like the image. And then after I retired from teaching, I went back through all my collection, and I started researching who the artists were, and I was very surprised at what I had. I had a few. I don't think I have any dogs, but I have a few that our artists that don't have any kind of resume or reputation today. But there were so many that were really well known at the time they were working, and I limited my collection to about the 1870s to about 1950, and only American artists. So it's interesting comparing them and looking at the kinds of media that were used, the kinds of printmaking processes, and you can see the history of printmaking in the United States. Or you can see, I've got a lot of them from New Mexico and the Southwest too, and you can see the history, the development of towns, the changing landscape, how wars affected the country, and you can, and we like Lisa, we've talked before about how the railroads were so instrumental in developing the parks, and how the artists' images were extremely beneficial in explaining to Congress how and why these places should be preserved. So there's a lot of history in art. People, that's one of the things I think that's valuable, is a visual education, because so many schools right now are eliminating their visual art programs and their music programs, and it's. They think, well, we're not going to try and have any artists, but you still have people who think visually. They're maybe not going to be an artist, but they understand things visually. better than they
That's a good
understand it
point.
if it's written down.
You know,
So it's just a way of learning.
Exactly.
And that's valuable, and it is being devalued by many school systems.
and for all levels, all ages, you know.
Yeah.
Yesterday we recorded an interview with Deborah Stone, Debbie Stone. She's a travel writer, you know, in the magazines alongside you, and she did a story on going on a river cruise in Chicago, and it's through the Architectural Foundation, Chicago. I'm going to get it wrong, but it's this big architectural foundation. You go on a cruise on Chicago's first lady, and it's amazing to see the architecture of Chicago then. And I pulled up your article and I'm like, well, there's this print here what this guy started, this whole thing started, you know, artists, you know, capturing architecture. And here's, you know, this picture of the Chicago fire and how artists started covering architecture because of Chicago, and Chicago being the first skyscraper city, you know. So it was really interesting just in that conversation about what the art has done. So it's really pretty amazing what you can do. So,
I guess I like history, so this is a natural for me, a natural tie-in.
it's awesome. It's awesome. So
it's important to know what happened in the past.
Yeah. That's what was so interesting to me and fun about teaching art history, in that I would always have people, because it was a required class, people, they were there because they had to be there, and they weren't necessarily happy about it. And it was a challenge always to get them excited about art history. But I had lots of people say to me, you know, after taking classes, that they always hated history because it was always memorizing dates and such. And I tried to approach it in a more relative way. So it wasn't necessarily at their level memorization of names and dates. It was seeing the change in style and what came first and why it happened and what was going on at the time. And it just, you know, I tried to make it interesting. And so when people would actually change their mind and enjoy our history, it was always a big reward for me.
Well, it's true. I mean, you can memorize dates, but that doesn't mean you know what happened. It's just you know how to memorize a date, and it's not relevant. It's not real to you. You know, it's just a row of numbers, like a combination lock. You know, you can remember it, but to really get art, you have to be able to see it and react to it emotionally. And so if you can do that with history through pictures, I think that's really critical. It's valuable.
So where are you now on this whole project of creating this museum, a fine art museum in Silver City, New Mexico?
Well, we have bequests that we know about. And so we know there's money that's been designated for us to use. We're at this point right now where we are forming a corporation. It'll be like a trust. It's kind of a trustee kind of situation where the board of directors, when this money comes in, will be ready to spend it actually, because we need a building. We need to follow the two main rules of museum, that is to preserve what you've got and to exhibit what you've got. So we have to have a place suitable to do that. And we've looked at using historic buildings that are already here, and we've contemplated using the money to actually build from scratch so that everything is up to snuff immediately. And we have the right temperature and air conditioning systems and storage and all that kind of thing, which is important. It's not, because most people don't think about that as when they go to a museum. They only think about what they're seeing, and they don't realize that there's probably almost as much space devoted to storage and conservation as there is to exhibition. But anyway, we're at that stage, the developmental stage, and we're not in a hurry. We want to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting so many gifts right now of significant artwork.
Wow.
I just had a call this morning from a lady who's in her upper 80s now, and I've known her for a while, and she is shipping her collection to me sometime this year.
Wow.
She just wants it to go. She wants it to go to a place where she knows it will be taken care of and other people will enjoy it. And I think that is so generous of her.
Really-
El Paso's sculptor Hol Barron has given us the gift of a wonderful bronze sculpture, really large bronze sculpture. At the same time, he's also given Silver City 14 sculptures to put around town. So we're just getting these wonderful, wonderful gifts of people who have confidence in the museum idea, and the confidence in the idea that art is worth preserving.
Awesome.
I love that. Can people contact you through victoriachick.com if they want to donate art or get involved and maybe help you on the board or as a volunteer?
They can do that. If people want to give us money, I think they should hold off, because our corporation, Museum Corporation, has applied for a nonprofit status, but we do not have that yet.
Okay. So it's coming, though. It's coming.
Yeah.
So everyone, again, victoriachick.com, go take a look at Victoria's art, and also take a look at what she's doing in regards to the museum. Contact her if you want to get involved. I think it's awesome. So we can't wait to be visiting you and for you to take us on a tour around the museum, Victoria. I know it's going to take time, but it's always worth those kinds of things, you know, the time and the patience to create something like this. And I see many more coming into fruition from it, you know. You're the instigator.
Yes, she is.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure.